To find a place to rent. I know renters when I see them. Apartments.
I think we're on. Hello, hello, hello. We'll pause here. I think. Okay. At least OBS says you can hear me. Can everyone hear me, see me? Is all good? Let's see, 8 people. Someone can tell me something. All right, let's go to file request and see if anyone has their... Oh. We have Vera from last week and Aji. So let's download those. Alright, what do we got here? We're gonna slide that over there. Alright. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Hello, kind and gentle folk. I hope we're all good tonight. Another lovely week. Last week I totally porked the pooch and didn't realize that she had a 4-hour slot. So because of how the scheduling done, I didn't notice it. So this will be my slot. All right. So we have a piece from last week. Okay, this is what I was working on. So let's, did I quick save it? Let's check before we move to new pieces. Yep, that looks like I saved it there. Okay. If anyone has crits, there is the link there in the title. So upload your files to the Dropbox and we can look at your pieces. Let me get rid of these and start a new part here. Project. Boop, boop. Nope. Okay. So I'm going to start with the one from last week, and if she comes in, we can go back over it with her. But no point unless is Aji here? Was it Aji? Hold on, let me. Ajay, Spartan mask. Do you happen to be here? If not, we'll start with Vera from last week, and then we will move on from there. Vera, what has become of you? I know I have a great singing voice. You don't have to admit it. I know it. Okay. Boop. Okay, Aji put in a ZPR. Preferably ZTLs or STL, anything that I import, because if you ZPR, you drag me into your world, and I don't particularly like that. Because you guys use different environments. See, look at this environment. You're all killing me. Killing me. Insert. We'll have to start a new project after this one. I need to put on their STLs and all right. What have we got here? Let's move this stuff around so I can use my space mouse. Okay. So this is Vera from last week. Sorry we didn't get to you last week. And like I said, if you come in this week, we will look at you. All right, let's see what you got. Okay, your muscle grouping is quite nice. Hold on, let me silence that because people in the backyard are building a fence, so we have a lot of noise. So once again, anyone out there, you have models to critique, please just put them up here and at that link there for the Dropbox, and we will look at them. Okay, Vera, so what do we have here? We have probably one of the new sort of cyborgy faces is what I'm guessing. And then actually your ankles are really nice. This seems to be a transition that people have a really, really hard time with. And that's actually a really lovely block out of the ankle and lower leg. Very nice. Your anatomy is really good. You show like really good understanding of where your muscle stuff is going. Like your glutes are in the right places. I'd say for a block up, you're definitely getting there. I mean, all of your positioning and stuff as well. Your pecs are actually going where they're supposed to go, which is nice. You may want to get just a little bit more depth here where this is literally riding above. But, I mean, this is a block out, so I can't really, you know. I mean, you know enough about your anatomy that that intersection seems logical. But just make sure to get the armpit right. Your clavicles are a little long, but I mean, this is stylized, so I don't think that's super melodramatic because your clavicles ending here. You might just have flat deltoids, so that's fine. Honestly, I would say all in all, your anatomy is looking really nice. And actually, just even in a static pose, it has a very naturalistic position. Like the bow in the lower back is something that a lot of people miss. The curve in the neck is really nice, sort of a sway neck where they're pushing their chin forward. If you show up, we'll go over some stuff. I have some questions, but where you stand right now, it looks great. Looking very nice. Your positioning and your anatomy is really tight. And just your lower legs show that you actually know quite a bit about. I mean, your anatomy's tight. Do remember this muscle crosses over that bone, but yeah. Ver nice. Looks good. All right, we'll wait for you to come in if you do. And then, yeah. Boy, everyone's quiet tonight. No chatting. I see how you guys are. Everyone will talk to Ash. No one talks to me. Well, I see. Don't see him not noticing. All right, let's see what we have here. This is Aji Spartan mask. So be careful. This looks very Celtic here. And if you're going for, even if it's fantasy, I would be careful about mixing my, like, ethnic symbolism. Just because, not that it's an issue. It just, this looks like a Thor's hammer. And a Spartan mask and a Thor's hammer. You know, there is the Celtic masks that are similar to this, but they're open and it just has the nose plate. Like Sutton Hoo is a really good example of that style of helmet. So be careful about mixing your ornament genres. Also, it's tricky, like when you just do these straps and little rivets here. I'm not seeing anything else here that is like that small of an architectural element. So unless you plan on repeating something else this small, I think that your design is actually more solid without those. I mean, here, look, don't think that you have to fill every bit of space. You don't have to. Turn the symmetry on. What is that the stylus? One sec. I've been having stylus issues. I think I dropped the tip on one. And now it's just a nightmare. Hey, how are we doing today? So once again, if anyone has anything they want critiqued, throw it up on in Dropbox and we will take a look at your models. I think that's a much stronger form than trying to put those little rivets in there, unless that's a style that you're going to carry out through the part. I know it's been a really long time. When I went down to LA, because I was streaming up to the point I moved down to LA, and then it was chaos. I was supposed to live in one place and we were supposed to have a studio set up, and then it just blew up, and then it was sort of dragging on and dragging on and dragging on, and then it turned into a chaos situation to the point that I didn't really have I didn't have the bandwidth or the space to put everything up. Everything was sort of in storage until we were getting this studio, and that just never happened. Like a year and it never happened. So yeah, it's been a while, but this is going to be my regular slot again, and I'll take we'll do critiques here. And then I moved to Santa Cruz, and it's taken a while to get everything sort of set up and sorted. So, but we're here and I'm back. So I will now start streaming on Tuesdays starting at 5. I think that'll be my regular slot. And tonight it's 5 to 8:45 because Oscar streams after me, but I think he only streams every other week. So unless someone takes the slot, we might be able to go a little longer on the other Tuesdays, but that completely depends on if other people are logged into the slot. So yes, it's been a while. I know, I missed it. I definitely missed streaming. We were debating what I should do, and I guess there just aren't a lot of critiques out there, so that's why I'm starting with the critique as opposed to just technique stuff, because I don't know, it seems more helpful to the community than just watching me make jewelry, I mean, if during critiques, if anybody has any specific questions about techniques, of course I'm always there to do that. But yeah, hopefully we get back into the rhythm and get people coming and knowing I'm here, because I did this the first week, and then when I was looking at the calendar, I thought the slot between Ash and Eric was open, and I thought that would be a fun slot to be in, but Ash does a 4-hour stream, and how the calendar is on the backside, it didn't show that, so I scheduled that last week, and then Ash was streaming, and I'm like, oh, because it's been so long, I don't know how long she was streaming. So here we are. We're back in the Tuesday slot. but it's earlier, so hopefully we get some people on the East Coast now because, I used to start at 8, so we missed everyone on the East Coast. So hopefully we can get more of America involved because I was always yelled at by starting too late. Yeah. Okay, so I think really that's... And the other thing, be careful. Like, this is such a nice, long, strong form. Chopping it up down here this way weakens the shape. So just be careful about that repetitive pattern that... are these all the same part? Yeah, basically. Okay. Now, if he comes in, we can... Hey, Sherry, how's it going? Whoop, whoop. If Aji comes in or Vera comes in, we can go back and look at their parts. But I am going to export this as an STL, right? Or export this as a ZTL and go back to my environment because I can't stand this background. Not that it's a thing, it's just not my thing. We got you save as boop. Spartan mask. And then hers is an STL, so let's go back to my project. Oh yeah, no. This is absolutely not jewelry specific. In fact, when I was doing it before, I think 90% of stuff was like character review and just model review. This is just purely critiques of any models. I mean, you can bring in, last time I was doing critiques of people's drawings, critique was a big part of our education, so I'm fairly good at it. So yeah, no, it's absolutely, completely, and utterly open to any objects for sure. And yes, I would happily look at mini models, whatever we want to do. And especially now at the very beginning, when people don't know I'm here, I'm not going to get jammed where we have 3-week backlogs. So this is a good time to do it. All right, so now we have that. We will load these 2 STLs just so we have that one. Or ZTLs. I keep saying STLs. There we go. Yeah, no, this is, for the most part, I'm just trying to get really tight design information out there and I always found you learn a lot when you see other people, you're like, oh, I haven't thought about that in a while, but I wonder, I stopped doing that because I couldn't figure out how to do it, or when I did that, it looked like crap, or, so I find that the critiques are more universally helpful than, because jewelry, what most people here at ZBrush, or the ZBrush viewership, doesn't understand is that the jewelry stuff really is just ZBrush for manufacturing. Like, anything I teach someone about how to make a piece of jewelry is how to make a miniature, is how to make a doll, how to make a toy, So, yeah, hopefully this is a helpful kind of show. So once again, if anyone has anything that they want me to look at, there is, the link is right here right under the name, Critiques with Tomas, and then upload your files at boop, and that's the link. Is that Carrie Lee? Boop. Download. All right. So. Did it load? Oh. There we go. Oh, super fun. Nice. Your anatomy is really nice. You have the familiarity of the human anatomy, but you've changed it enough to make it feel alien, which is good. By putting platelets here instead of having that being the muscle budge, having these be platelets. But, it's still a recognizable muscle form, so that's nice. Okay. What is this for? The level of work can be very beginner to, like, I had a couple studios bringing their parts in when I used to stream. So, whatever level you are, we can talk about it. We can talk about how to do fundamental block ups to, why zippers aren't working in your game ready asset of a soldier. So, I feel very comfortable commenting on absolutely anybody's work. Okay, so it's a portfolio piece. I can see what they were saying about making the things flow together, but what I really think the issue is, or what's sort of keeping the rhythm or the flow odd, or not odd, but what the other person was saying as well, is there is an overall consistency of detail. And what I mean by is it's like you use the same brush and you never change the brush size. So things that are tenuous pieces holding the thing onto the shell is also the same relative size and shape form as, let's say, the tendons holding into the deltoid. So, hey, old man, how we doing, my brother? So, as you can, and what that does is it makes it look busy, and in turn, it sort of blocks things out a little slightly differently. So, as you can see here, the shape of these connective tissues, like this tendony stuff, looks very similar to this tendony stuff. So I'm just going to use Pablo's brushes because, well, Pablo's a brush god, but also he has things that are very different textures. And let's just look at that. I don't really know what brushes these are. I'm just going to throw this out there so we have something to use that are, so you can understand what I mean. So let's turn everybody off here. And so we have this. I'm going to change this just a touch. Sorry, I just have to pay attention if other people load up models, because we can spend as much time as we have on this stuff. Okay. So let's talk about the back just real quick. I'm going to use SK Trim Polish, which is one of Sakaki Kaoru's brushes. I don't have the link on it, but he's actually now streaming regularly on Fridays, I think. And I'm sure he has a link to his brushes. Now, to be fair, I got these brushes probably 10 years ago. So I assume there's still access to them. But, so for a shell, see how this feels soft and fleshy? I would come in, I mean, you have a very nice subsurface in here. Hey, Thraust. How we doing, my brother? Yes, of course, Krishna, any layer, any level of model we'll look at. So you can see that, look at the feel of this, right? There are no sharp edges. This is soft. Now let's turn everybody else back on. And there's very little difference between the textures of the body and this. And this is a beautiful shape. You have like sort of like your framing structure, and then you have the sub-framing structure. It looks really good. Yeah, I'm back. So Tuesday nights is my day. This is going to be my regular day from now on. So yeah, here we are. Okay, I'm going to divide this a little more. So just so you know, so how I tend to sculpt is I have very high resolution models. Like I have models where every single one of these layers is like at anywhere between 40 and 80 million polys per subtool. So I like to have a ton of resolution because I use clay tubes to lay down my textures, and then I come back over and take it. But I'm also, for the most part, doing things for manufacturing. But that is so I have tons of, see, you have really nice subdivision levels here, which is good. Because the more subdivision levels you have, the more control you have over your mesh. So let's come in here first. And now you have a really nice shape. And I'm just going to come over with, this is SK Trim Polish, I think. Yeah. And I'm just, now, mind you, this is on stream, and so this, everything's fast. So I'm not going to be able to, I would be probably a lot more careful if I were doing this. But you can see that I'm just coming and knocking those round edges off the top. You can have them like behind. I just want to see things a little sharper to imply that this is a hard surface, right? Now, this is the other thing. A lot of people teach to use like the clay brush and your standard brushes, so you start to get the round forms of like muscle and stuff like that. I don't do that. I use clay tubes as my, almost everything's clay tubes until I start to get into specialty or textures or rolls. But clay tubes is, oh, I see. Yeah. So what I like about clay tubes is, especially on a surface like this, I'm going to come in, I turn it down really low. I mean, 2 or 3. And then I can subtly put my planes in, and it allows me to get a pseudo hard surface. And clay tubes is a layer brush, so I can come in, do this, and it has no buildup. So it really allows me to control the surfacing. And I would just make this a little bit harder, just so there is a hard surface on the carapace. And then that also allows you to kind of get a rhythm to the surface, you know, where you're almost like you can imply these as sort of stripes or something. Like you can get and direct surface rhythm much easier this way, right? And so I tend to build up, and when you build up, you're always going to wind up with like a slightly soft round, and then I come back in and I knock out the middles of things, and that allows me to, let's just say we want this to be a visual pattern, right? instead of coming in and drawing on my surface, hold on, you know, where you're doing this, I will always come in with clay tubes and I will create that edge by a layer. And the nice thing about this is that becomes a lighting effect. It's not just a curve. You now have an over and under. And then let's say you wanted this to be like a pattern or something. You could get it in there. And now it's actually dimensional. It's not just, you have a surface continuity that you're retaining by not cutting into your surface. And you can see you can quickly get really nice hard forms. So I'd like to see the shell or the carapace have a little bit more feel harder than the substructure underneath it. Ryan's a very good sculptor for sure. And so now let's get back under here. Boop. I tend to use twist brushes because, and once again, this is a Sakari Kaku brush. And it's just giving me that lip, right? And I don't know what this membrane brush does, but we're going to use it. How big's the detail? Okay. That's smaller than what you've been using, so that's good. So I'm just going to change this into sort of a stretchy membrane. And you notice my hash marks are a lot smaller than your normal stroke or your average stroke that you were using. And I want this to feel like it's the tenuous material that's holding the shell on. And it's like, you know, if you peel a plate of a shell back, you get like that weird little tendon feeling. And these are I always forget Pablo's website. ZBrush. It's not ZBrush Classics. The upload link is in the title. Like you look at Pixelogic, it says Creek. That upload link is right there in the title. So you can see that by making these a smaller scale, let's turn everyone back on. See how this doesn't feel like this stuff here, right? It's a different texture. It's a different scale texture. And so that allows that to feel differently than your and like, you know, you can kind of do connective tissue here. So it feels just like, it's not like this scale, like your tendon stuff. Now, the other thing is because you're using things that are soft, everything just feels really soft and malleable. This is where, once again, I find clay tubes to be a little bit more helpful in situations like this, because I can come in, get the, hold on, let's turn everyone else off here a second. Try not to keep everything high peaked round. He's actually working. He's been very, very busy. Yeah, he's still around. But sadly, I mean, this is only my second week coming back, so we haven't really scheduled anything, but he's been insanely busy recently. So Henry, yeah. Sometimes Juan helps as well. So we'll get a little bit more organized. But I mean, so far I've had 3 or 4. Last week I only had 4 people, so it wasn't something we had to control. But as soon as we start getting known, I think that we'll probably have to deal with that. Like I gotta talk to Henry to remember how to get the Discord to work so we can talk instead of just me chatting, where there's response in the crit, so you can talk about it, because chatting is always difficult. So here you're cutting into your surfaces, and this is kind of what I call drawing on the surface, where if you're come through and really define your mass layers and what's sitting on top of what, and really concentrating on sort of what's on top of the other, instead of everything being V's coming down, and so basically you just have a lumpy surface. If you come back through first and define your layers, and you're like, okay, that's going to cut behind that, so we're going to make that a layer, and then it sort of flattens out. I like to define my reflection planes, because even if it's never coming out of ZBrush, it's going into graphics or something like that. You still have to, at the end of the day, we're always sculpting in light. What is a reflective surface? What is the story you're telling by layers? What goes under, what goes over, and why? And so that's always the story you're telling when you're sculpting. And so I think a lot of times in digital sculpting, it's easy to forget that, because you can just throw a matte cap on something and then, you know, that's carrying its own lighting, so who cares, you know? But end of the day, you should know what the light's doing on your model, whether you're matte capping or texturing or not. So now we have that base layer, and then you sort of have a secondary layer coming up in here. Oh, that's clay buildup. I'm like, why is this being so dramatic? Because that's the wrong brush. And then you can bring in the next layer that you have going, and just build it up by layers. And that's going to give you more subtle layering and slightly more realistic, where you can have very, very subtle surfacing and surface transitions, because what's on top of the next thing, right? Does that make sense? I have to, there are like a few of them up there, so I'll download them. Remember everyone, ZTLs, OBJs or STLs, ZPRs completely take over my environment, and I get crabby about that. So, and like, you know, you, instead of, I know this isn't your anatomy, but I want you to kind of, so let's say you have 3 major tendons happening here, right? These are going to come in here. That's going to go there. So you can, because this is now going to be, so when you draw on the surface, I consider this drawing on the surface, where you just take a tool and you're drawing lines in. Anyone who knows me, this is my mantra. This is the thing. You can draw on the surface to separate surfaces, right? So if you know that something's going inside something else, go ahead and draw on the surface, because you want separation. If it's not something that's like an air gap, you don't want to draw on the surface, because that breaks surface continuity. Like, these are going to go down in here, that's going to go under that, that's going over that. And you can see that I'm telling this over and under story much easier with really fine little layers than huge V cuts, right? And you can see that I'm almost always working in surface planes, just so I can see what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Because planes tell me a lot more than just cuts and valleys. and this was, especially early on in ZBrush, this was a very, where people would sculpt with soft standard brushes. So you had nice round tubes and you're laying round tubes down. But I just find that, and especially since I've been manufacturing, I have to know what actually shows up. And people are like, oh, well, I'm doing this for a game. I'm not doing it manufacturing. Well, we still have objects that we're putting light on. So you want to think about how the light is acting on your object, right? And so you can create a lot of visual dynamics. But see, this very clearly tells me this is on top, and then this is here, but it sort of dives behind this surface, where if you just cut V's and things, it just looks like a solid that has baggy droops in it, right? You're not telling me what is happening. So like for a pectoral muscle, it's one muscle, and then its striations and the tendation or the tendons come out, and that's what you're seeing, and you can make it dramatic. Where using, so like this is loose and wavy. Let me see if I can find a place where, this sort of feels like baggy flesh. This is a great place for the round because it's a completely different feeling. And so being able to have different textures that are telling different stories about the hardness, the tightness, the looseness of the skin and the muscle or the material at all, use your textures to do that. And so you can see that for the most part, it's almost like you're using the same size brush. I'm just going to use a big standard brush here for a second. Let's turn it down. But you can see if I do this stroke, right? But I also do this stroke, you can see it feels like you're not changing the size of your brush up much. You got your brush and then you're just going at it. And so, especially with the round brushes or the like the standard brushes or stuff, be careful with that, because that creates a visual monotony that it then just becomes clutter. The other thing to remember is giving the eye room to relax every once in a while. So like I said, you have all this going on here. Well, don't be afraid to, like, once you get all your detail in, to come back in and just hit flatten over some places. And that's going to allow your eye to sort of have places to relax, right? Because if it's just, that's where, like, people who come from really good gaming portrait sculpting, and they think they're going to do toys. So they do all the skin detail and they do all the pores and all of that. And it looks garbage on a toy. It's just too much. It's stupid. It just makes everything look like it's been sandblasted. It's horrible. So there's something to that even in this stuff. Like, you'll see this unbelievable pore detail and the micro hairs and all of that. But it just looks, it's too much quite often, right? So don't be afraid to just come back, tap it down, and give your eye a place to relax. But I hope that, like, even just the comparison between these two things, it's pretty obvious. I mean, look how subtle that is, but that's telling the story that this is on top of the higher is on top of the lower, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it don't feel bad. Everyone does it. If you ever watch my critiques, probably, 15 to 20 people, I'm going to say, don't draw sculpt on your surface. Sculpt layers, don't draw crevices. Because it's a thing that we all just sort of, you don't think about it, right? You just put the thing, but having to bring these things out and getting them into print, you start to realize when you draw a crack in a surface, you're separating line continuity. So like in a spaceship or something where you have two distinct plates, well, that's very good because you don't want those to look like they're actually relating to one another as a surfacing. Now, the one below that, you got to be careful. It's got to feel like it's going under, so you don't want to cut a crease in it. You want to push it back so the lip is creating the depth, not the line. So I would say work on that. Let's go back. But you can see that just here, right before, hold on, let's duplicate this. Where's our shell? Duplicate. And then let's take you and we'll go back to start. Come on. You can do it. Yes, Hannibal, how are we doing, my brother? And this is now going to be my normal slot. So, yeah. Okay, so let's look here. So this was your original. Was that your original? Yeah, okay. So this is your original lines attaching the body. And if we look at the stroke size, right? I mean, see here, there's very little difference between that. Just this stroke and that stroke. Some of this stuff and these strokes, you know, these tendons and this stroke. So what happens when you're looking at the front, it starts to become chatter as opposed to something that's standing away from it. So let's turn all our paint on so we're not... Oh, well, that's okay. I was going to say... but actually, this is a pretty good point. If you look here, like this stuff, like the carapace attaching to the torso, you don't really get any separation, right? It just looks like... I mean, like those could be the lats. You know what I mean? Where in this one, see, it's a completely different texture. And those nice sharp tight lines take the lines that are on the torso, which are larger, and by making that smaller, it becomes a darker structure that then brings the torso in front. Do you see how even with the same monotone color, do you see how the difference between that, where feasibly you're not getting any kind of visual separation from the torso and the carapace. By changing that to something more tendy and a tighter design, this now becomes a background, which obviously is there. And then also if you were to really make a clear edge on this, which I sort of wiped out, you have it down here, but right where we need to see it. Now you see by putting that line in there, there's a frame. Something's obviously going on back there. So in the second we twist, we're like, oh, it's a carapace, right? And then also making this hard, so all of the soft material. Like you did a good job here of making this feel harder than the rest of the stuff. These, what is it? Like the thorax plates look harder than the shell, right? The shell's soft. This is hard. This feels like scales. This, I mean, this is even after I put some hardening on it, and it still feels soft compared to your pose, your anatomy is nice. At this point, uh-oh, what happened? Oh, I just saw a big, no, I'm back, I guess. That was weird. It's weird. I have tons of, I have a gigabit internet. I don't know why this is acting weird. Can you still hear me? That's bizarre. What is going on? Oh, don't do this to me. Okay. I have no idea what's going on, guys. I mean, I have gigabit internet. I don't know why it's being weird. Okay. So, I think just by going through and reevaluating, like they said that it has rhythm issues. I think it has rhythm issues because in some ways it just looks like a loose sack of meat as opposed to having the substructure. So go back, like your legs are fabulous, right? You know, it's very clear what's going on there. but your torso just became very noisy. So I think by coming back in, defining your muscles not as these like soppy bags of meat, but go back in and get like a nice solid structure, redefine your anatomy again, because like you just have a line right here, right? So I would probably do something where you're getting, oops, that is not clay tubes, where you're getting something where you know, these are sort of the functional delts. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just making this up. But where you have an intertwining of these muscles somehow, right? So you actually have an interaction between the lower bit of torso and the upper bit of torso somewhere. And that'll be, you know, for you to work out. But, you know, sort of like the striatus, except they're interweaving up and down maybe, or, yeah, something in that vein. And then that, and then here, let's, out of that, let's sneak the next pec in here. And I'm not saying this is a well conceived anatomy strategy, but you know, where you try to get it to where this anatomy seems like it's folding over itself, as opposed to just drawing a line. So I think if you just go back, think, especially, and really it's the torso where the issue is for the most part, but think about your planes first. Go back, redefine where your planes are, and then be a little bit more careful about how you draw on the surface, because it just turns it into something that looks like a loose bag. And then when you draw a completely straight line and there's no interaction between this, it separates the torso, where if you bring it, and this is too busy, I'm just trying to give you you know, an idea about sort of like that stride in and out, and where the delt, where the pec rolls under the delt and the bicep rolls under that. Look at those areas and sort of try to get this shoulder area to do something like that, so you feel like it's actually interweaving and it's more a bit of a piece of anatomy. And then concentrate, go back in and decide, okay, tendons are going to be at this streak, such and such is going to be at this streak, and then that way, you know, you have some visual separation between the width of your lines. Make sure to change the size of your brush, and don't just use the one brush and just use that for everything. Get in there and really change the size of your brush a lot. And, you know, for like a pec, make your brush bigger. For like the little tendons, make your brush smaller. But I would say start with thinking about it in planes, and then really tune where you're using that overlap. Did that help? Hey, Jeff. Hopefully that that helped some. Any questions? Do we still have video and audio? Have I blown it? Okay, yeah. And please, like next week, bring it back and let's look at it. I'd like to see what you're doing with it for sure. Because it's a beautiful piece. I mean, it has really nice rhythm. It just got lost in monotony, right? You know, it's that repetitive stroke that's all the same size, and that gets tricky. All right. Cool. All right. Jeff. All right. So now that was that. Carrie Lee. So we need to download these. Download. I don't know, guys. I feel a little insignificant because Asian Bunny X and Pools and Hot Tubs has 8,100 people. I only have 28. It's not good for my ego. No, I'm totally kidding. I know Jeff wants a hot tub, a pool hot tub stream in ZBrush. I think that would. See, that's when the iPad version of ZBrush comes out, I can start doing hot tub streams. I don't think that that's going to be very popular, to be fair. Yeah, no. As a person who spends my life trying to create beauty, I definitely know where I stand in the beauty scale. People are like, why are you so hard on yourself? I'm like, I'm not hard. I'm awesome. I'm just not pretty. Yeah, this is now my slot. So I'm going to be 5 to 8, 45. And then if I don't know yet because this is only the second week. Supposedly, trio. Oh man, no, I just had his name. Sorry, my poor brain. I can't remember my own name. He supposedly does it every other week, so feasibly we can go a little longer on that. No, Wednesday was a little tough because we have production meetings on Wednesday, and some of them went to like 6 or 7. I was just like, and Wednesday didn't work because Ash has a 4-hour slot on Thursdays. I was thinking about doing it on Thursdays, so I thought it'd be cool to be in between Ash and Eric because in the calendar it doesn't show that you can only reserve 2-hour slots in the calendar. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh, well, that's great. I can be in between Ash and Eric, and that'd be a fun little thing. But Ash does a 4-hour stream. So I was just confused by how the calendar worked. So, yeah. Oh, okay. So, yes, this looked fabulous. If we have no questions, I'm going to delete it because I don't know how big models are, and it's better to keep that easy. We download it. Let's go here. Downloads, unzip. Boom. Okay, Sean, could you do me a huge favor and upload that as a ZTL as opposed to a Z project? It's just hard for me to deal with Z projects because it changes all of my interface and settings and stuff, and then some people do some weird stuff with their environments, and then it trashes my environment. I have to reboot, and it just stresses me out. If you can't, we'll get away with it this week, but preferably ZTLs STLs, OBJs, things that I can import into my workspace. I know, I'm a prima donna. All right, so Lewis is next. And then the PNG we'll look at, and it's Arando Campos, boop, boop. And then Sean, if you can re-upload that as a ZTL, that'd be great. And by the time we're there, if you can't, I'll just deal with it. Okay. So we have, is this the first one? Lewis, and then this is the picture. Okay. Now let's look at what you got. I will do you the service of making this white. I need to get, I can't even remember what the name of the viewing software is, but is it Ref, UREF, or just Ref? So it'll sit on top of the, excuse me guys. Pretty darn good. So, I would say first, the nose is a little flat and round. See how soft this intersection is compared to. This seems like a pretty sharp nose, and it feels like there's a scoop here. I don't know if you have something from a different, like if you have something from a different angle, and you're like, no, dumb ass, that's actually what it's supposed to look like. It's good. And as always, for those of you who are new, don't ever feel like I'm saying your sculpt is wrong. I truly just go, yeah, pure ref. Thank you. Oh, that's right. I always forget about that. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for reminding me that. I always forget that. See, like when I started, you couldn't do that. That's been that's been put in there recently. What, like the last 6 years? Oh, right, yeah. You guys have to help me get Discord set up because Henry's been busy. I swear, we'll get back to it to where we can actually talk during these things. So, just real fast, I think that I'm going to do this heavy-handedly, so I'm not necessarily trying to make it look like what you have there. But, wow, I'm really lagging now. What the hell? Okay. So see how sharp this nostril edge is? And then if we look at this side over here, see how sharp this is? And then it's the implication of sort of like that little button nose. and then these hash marks make it feel like it's cutting in, where this is more like a ball end nose. And the only reason I get this like persnickety about it is that if you're actually working with a production designer, these are things that can make and break your reputation of being able to really pull out the implied character from drawings. So that's why I'm like this. I'm sort of always like this. So I would say that, gosh, I'm umming a lot. I haven't streamed in a long time. I'm like, Okay, I'm going to divide this up so I have a little bit more geometry to work with. Oh, I see. 2, we'll do one more division. The other reason I like to work at higher resolutions is it allows me to lower the intensity of my brush. The higher the resolution, the lower the Z intensity you can use. So it allows you to make much more subtle changes. So I think that the end of the nose sort of has this buttony feel, at least in the drawing. And I'm going to do this in planes, and my proportions are not right. So once again, I'm just trying to get a point across as opposed to make it correct. So it feels like they're trying to sell us on this sort of button nose thing. And then, because here it's not, like in the drawing, it's not up. There's, hold on, I have, do I have it? Yep, there it is, okay. Live draw zoom, okay. Is OBS yelling at me? Oh no, did I just close OBS? Did I just kill us? Shit. No, I didn't, okay, good. Just scared me. 300, no, why is it? Oh, I guess that's saying I'm live. Okay, I saw a red thing. I'm like, why is it red? I'm still I don't know. That's what. Let us do this later in the week so we can figure it out. It should be. I just don't know where it is. So you can see that there is this crease here, right? You have a sharp brow. You have a sharp plane. They're giving us this button, and they're giving us this crease right here. So this is sort of defining the shape of that edge. So it's a much more of a button nose than a round nose. And then look at how sharp this intersection is here, right? It's sharp. They're implying it on both sides. So I think that they're probably shooting for something that has a little bit more of a button nose. It has a scoop here instead. And then this is a sharper line. Because you're getting that shape there. And then it seems to be thinner, so it seems to be just a sharper nose in general. If that makes any sense. And then I would say that with the scoop of the underbrow being bulbous down, it makes it feel like it's like a sympathetic look as opposed to a bright-eyed look. Let's look here again. Right, he's furrowing his brow, but it's more like playful, I guess. So by following the eye socket line, making that edge up to that, because see how this feels much more like the eye socket's there, and it's just an implication of that. And if you look here, you're not seeing a trench in here. There's not a cut here. See how this line is here? That line isn't indicated in the side of the brow. So I think that it's actually simpler. Come on. And also, this feels like it's a bit more of a triangle. So that's feeling in some. So let's look at that. Stop that. So see how that opens up the expression a little, as opposed to getting that meat depth here. So it sort of opens the expression some, as opposed to it drooping, so it feels like, because it feels like he's not doing this, but doing this. So this is all upwards. And by keeping this sort of up and in, the momentum isn't weighty here, but it feels like he's furrowing by opening his eyes and leaning up. So it's like that as opposed to that. And so if he's bringing his brow down, you get this meat, a lot more meat weight here, and that brings the furrow down to here. So by keeping that nice and light and coming up, it keeps the brow going up, and I think it lightens the expression some. Honestly, other than the shape of the nose and that meat there, I think it's fabulous. It looks great. See what I mean? Because see, just even having the little weight here, see how it makes the shadow deep here? Where if this is more of a scoop, see how that becomes much lighter? Where if you just put a little bit of weight here, it changes the feel of where that the meat under the brow is. Does that make any sense at all? Yeah. It also, when you had the meat coming down, it really made the eyebrows feel as if they were separated from the face. And by taking that curve all the way up to the eyebrow, where the edge of the eyebrow is the beginning of the eye socket, I think that helps a lot too. And you can see how just by changing that level just a little, it really keeps that this nice and light. And I know my nose is the wrong shape, but I think being that melodramatic kind of shows the point. And having the shape of the hole being sharp. Right. So hopefully that helped. Does that make any sense? Yeah, there's no AI that has my jangles. Yep, it's a really tight sculpt. It's really nice. And by cutting that in, you probably want to move this out some. Okay, maybe that was a little too much. Well, we can go back to it if we have time. There was just no one here, so I needed to start something. Yeah, no, of course. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I never know, because if we can't talk, it's always, who knows. Uh-oh. Any questions about this one? Nope. Okay. We will move on. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Cool. Alright, we're going to delete all. And then we have this one. Alright. And this is Fernando. Campos Fernando. Sorry if I butcher everyone's names. I apologize. I can't pronounce my name, so. Okay, what do we have here? I feel like it looks good from the top though. That's interesting. I feel like the neck is crowding in a little. I think you might just need to push this back a touch. Because that front isn't, it's not just a straight shot up the neck. There's a pretty good step back there with the clavicles and stuff. I think your delts are riding a little forward too. In this, does it return there? I feel like this is also crowding just a little because you should have plenty of room under here, especially with the arm up and out. You should have plenty of room under here for your straight. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. A little bit more room here because these should become clear, and this kind of tucks up under there just a little more, thus creating some tension there. Because you have to remember all of this stuff, especially in these dynamic in the dynamic poses, it's pure muscular tension. Well, I'll tell you, as a beginner, it's very nice. First of all, it looks good. I think that you're a little... It feels like the rib cage is flattening out here just a touch. From this angle, this feels very straight. So I think that, especially since you're putting this bend into the back, the rib cage kind of comes up and out a little bit more. So don't lose your rib cage. Especially when you're doing anatomy studies like this, I find it's good to have a base rib cage that's just solid, and then a base block that's your hips, and it lets you not flatten your rib cage, because often when you're concentrating on your rotation, you lose because you do it, you're looking at the muscles and you're thinking about it in the muscles, and whenever here, I'm going to duplicate this real quick. The one thing you just want to be very sure of is where, hold on, let's go duplicate. Wow, what was that? What tool did you last use? What was that crazy grid? That was wild. Okay. And I obviously would spend more time and make this right. But why is that on the Z axis? Come on, Tomas. Boop. 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 duplicate. Oh, what is going on there? Come on. What is... Okay. Never mind. I don't know why that's not working. Not going to take the time to figure it out. Okay. And this is... I'm not implying that this is matching yours. I just want you to kind of wrap your head around this because it's a very good thing to reference. So when you're doing it, have... let's merge that down. So when you're doing your reference, you're like, okay, well, I want the hips to be forward. And then I'm going to take my torso, I'm going to twist it around, I'm going to cock it back. And then when you're working, you can see, you can make sure that the depths of your, because a lot of people, when they start twisting things, they lose the rib cage. It flattens out because you're trying to get the muscle relationships, and then you forget that substructure of the skeleton. So, I mean, anatomically speaking, this looks really nice. But when you rotate this out, right, do you see there's already an issue here? Your abs have sort of flattened out. And I know this is not the size of your rib cage, but you can see that our sternum's in the right place. Let's turn symmetry off. But our torso is actually twisting more. So this is going to come out. And normally I would just use twist, but I'm going to just tie this to this really fast to get you the idea. Right? And then that's usually where you have a, like a, you know, where the meat's pinching here. And that's usually riding along the bottom side of that. That rib cage is what's instigating that pinch. So when you're doing your anatomical studies, I would say keep a block skeleton with you. And think about things in planes and how they work. There is Anatomy for Sculptors. That is a great book because it breaks things up in planes. And at some point, I know that they gave me a discount to give to people. So I'll dig that back out. I think it's still active. If not, I'll contact them again. And it's a really, really good book to think about your base anatomy as blockouts and planes. So here, I'll do this once. Scope. Yeah, here. And what's really nice about these books is they break your... You're not going to... Okay, let's do a Google image search. They break it up into... Especially if you're learning anatomy for sculpting, these books are great. Let me do this, and we'll just do... we'll take out the address, do enter, and we'll do an image search. No. Okay, images. So what I really like about these books is they do this. See what I was saying? Having your base rib cage and a base hip joint. And then they give you the substructure. They give you the plane structure. And then they show you how that breaks out in muscles. Then they give you skeletons and muscle breakdowns, like actual muscle breakdowns. And then skinned muscle breakdowns. But what's great about this is that they actually take photographs of people and do it over the photograph. So you're not just imagining how these systems work, you see it in action. It is, I think it's one of the best learning tools there is. You can see here breaking the face out in these flat planes, and it's just so helpful to think about everything in planes. And their facial expression works. It shows you where the fat is, where the muscles pull, actually what's creating the expressions. So I think that this really is one of the best. Here's another one, like showing you this is how the hinges on the arm work. They break it in and show you how it breaks down here, and then they show it to you with muscles. So it allows you to see form and function, but it's just a super clear way to see the anatomy. And I would suggest for everyone to block up this way, where you
Hello.
where you are doing it where you have a loose, you get your block in, so you're mimicking your functional forms, and then you're detailing your functional forms. So keeping things in planes is really, really good for sculpting, because what it does is it allows you to define your light reflection planes, and that is going to really accent what's happening with your sculpt, because like I said, even in a digital world, we're still dealing with reflective surfaces. So yeah, I would say come to think about your forms like this, right? What's happening? This is the block out, that's the muscles, and that's the skinned muscle, right? And the nice thing about these, like I said, is they're basing it in photographs, so you get no artistic interpretation of position. This is the position, right? So yeah, it's, oh, what's that? Oh, I think this is this the guy who, I know the guy who did anatomy for sculptors. He did, this was like, does this still exist? If this is a lie, yeah, no, these are just the books. They don't have that. Oh yeah, look at that. It's a reference online with dimensional objects. Oh, that's nice. I haven't seen this. But once again, this is such a good reference showing you how to build up the structures. I think for sculpting, this is one of the best. I think this is one of the best ways of viewing anatomical structuring. I think it'll help you a lot. Oh, did I just lose my? Sorry, I lost chat because I brought that down there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just a really, really, really good reference stuff. So I would say that, I mean, you visualizing and then getting it down, I think, you have a good eye. You're getting things down. I just think that working with a substructure is going to help you keep the meat in the right place, because, like I said, it's very easy to lose your substructure, and that starts to destroy. It flattens everything out. It disrupts the flow. It's flat because you've just gone over your muscles. So I would say start trying that and then go. The other thing I would say, and this is all just me, but I would be very, especially while you're learning, and you're doing it, but when you're learning, I would be very specific with my stroking. And I tend to use my strokes to define my thing. So, like, I'm going to make this stronger just so we can see it. Like, I'm going to stroke like this, like this, like this, especially in the block up phase. Like, if you want it to feel like clay or whatever, that's fine. but that's a finishing thing. And then I'm coming like this, and I'm using my stroke direction to give directionality to my muscle structure. And so I'm going to go, okay, well, this is coming in here. I know that this is 2 different layers, so that's going to come up under that, but I'm going to make this flat. And then that way, when I do this one, I know that's on top of that one. And then, you know, these are sort of 3 big structural forms. And really use, instead of like these little texture strokes, use the strokes to really define the anatomy as it's happening. And it really helps you develop the rhythm of your anatomy. And it really helps you feel what's happening, right? So you got that, and so we're going to come in here, and we're going to do that, and then I know that does that, and then I know this comes on the outside of that. And just stroke with each muscle group, and it's going to let you really identify your structures and start to really wrap your head around what's happening. And when you're stroking in different directions with your things, it allows you to see what muscle group you're actually working on, and they don't blend together. And that's while you're constructing, right? And then, I mean, like if you want it to look like loose clay or something like that, you can then come back in and do that. But does that make sense? I just think that that'll help you define your forms a little cleaner. Yeah, it's just, I would be a little bit blockier in your forms. I could tell you were trying to do that. That's what I'm saying. I tend to use cross stroking as opposed to length stroking. Like if, like doing this, right? And you're kind of doing that, and then you continue that. I like to change it up. So that's doing that. That's doing that. That's doing that. And you can see I'm starting to define what's going over, what's coming under. It just allows you to visualize literally what's happening with the muscles as opposed to the flow, right? Because sometimes when you're just flowing, a certain tendon that's on top of a muscle gets pushed behind a muscle. And like if you're doing anatomical studies, wrap your head around what's actually happening. And I think those are the 2 things that would help you a lot. Because, I mean, honestly, it looks good. You just lost your rib cage in here. Because, I mean, just look at the transition from that being pretty flat to there being a twist on the torso, and the rib cage is actually over here, right? So, yeah. Does that help? Does that make any sense? Awesome. Do you have any questions? Sorry, just trying to get a Vera. I'm assuming this is the same Vera. I did critique the one that you left last week down on the thing, so you can always look at it when we come back. If we have time, we can always go back and look at it. All right. Dun, 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 dun. And once again, don't hesitate to bring it back, and we can always look at progressions. Okay, so now we got you done. Right, because this is the first one. We can go back to it after the eyeball thing too. Okay, so let me download, boop. Okay, so that is all of those, and that download, boop. did we get the whole part, or is that just a piece of it? There we go. And then that's it, right? That's got to be it. No, this says Cave Troll. That doesn't say Cedric Bot. Is this a different... Is this the whole part here? Or is this a different model that I... Sean, can you tell me if this is the actual part? Or are we just looking at this piece? Or are these two different things? So are we just looking at part of the head, or is this the full piece here? This looks like the part of the head here that is that. So I'm assuming this is the full model. Or am I just hallucinating over here? And then let us load tool. And that is... Okay. Okay, so I'm assuming we're looking at the full deal. All right, let's see what we got here. I always love big robots with little heads. Okay. My first suggestion, and I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of reasons to do it. My first real suggestion is finish your model before you start thinking about surface finishes and stuff, because you might start to get into this and start to noodle around and this and that, and then you realize that this will never work with your legs or something like that. So try to keep the model going at the same level most of the time. Now, of course, if you're matching like a drawing or something that's just the head or something like that, you may want to do the head, get it into character, and then make sure that that it's that you're matching to the head. But I would strongly suggest just getting everything, bringing everything up bit by bit, because you can leave yourself behind. The other thing you can do is just get out of rhythm, where some of these textures and stuff really are just stroke based, where you get in there and you got the rhythm and you're doing X, Y, and Z and you're hammering, you go, go, go. And then trying to replicate, let's say, this texture pattern or this cloth pattern. This is alpha, but I tend to do hand things. And let's say I get into the rhythm and I got the stroke and the fabric has the weight and it's like really good. And then I try to do it 2 days later and I can't get it to match. So I tend to try to keep everything at the same level and creep up on everything. That just helps. Hey, Andreas, how's it going? I know, dude, it is a hell of a story, but all's good. I'm in my little place, and Tuesdays will be my day, so I'm here from 5 to 8, 7:45, or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. What is it? I should actually find out. What's our calendar here? He comes on at 9, so 8:45. Yeah. I like how I'm already in, so I'm not. Oscar, jeez, I couldn't read. I thought it was Oscar. Okay, whatever. Ignore me, guys. I'm just yabbering. Okay. Oh, things are great. No complaints at all. It was just LA was a weird situation that I was supposed to be in a studio and then waited almost a year, so I was never around, like, blah, blah, blah. It's just a nightmare. But now I'm in Santa Cruz. Things are fine, other than Santa Cruz is ungodly expensive. Ungodly expensive. I'm paying $2,800 for this. Are you ready? So that's the wall of my bed, closet, TV, front door, kitchen, bathroom. $2,800. It's madness. Right? Madness. It's one of the most aggressive real estate environments in the world. Like, literally, it's the most expensive place to rent in the country because all the Silicon Graphic guys came over after during COVID, and so the market is just blown out. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, no, this is 360 square feet or something like. Yeah, no, it's obscene. And this is cheap. Like, if you go to an apartment complex, I think the cheapest one I found was like $3,300 a month plus utilities. Yeah, you don't want to rent in Santa Cruz. It's brutal. It's horrifying. Am I out of focus? Focus. I feel like I'm out of focus. Is it just focused on the background? Yeah, no, it's not focused. Am I focused? Yeah, Jesus. I have no idea. Is it just my eyes are bad, or it's not focused, is it? Okay, never mind. That's just going to drive me nuts. Okay, let's get back to it. Sorry, that was a complete distraction, Sean. I apologize. So here, now, once again, your stylization, you may be trying to do some of this stuff, so ignore me if you're like, well, no, dumbass, that's what I'm trying to do. let's just take this part for a second. You know how I'm always saying sculpt and layers, sculpt and layers. I'm going to divide this up so we actually have some geometry. Here is a perfect example of where drawing on your surface is important. So you want these to look like they're panels, and you've taken a soft crease here, and it just feels like this is dented and in. Now I tend to come in and I'm gonna, wow, that is strong. I'm going to come in and lay this surface in. I'm going to come in and lay this surface in. And come in and lay this surface in. And I'm going to come in and lay this surface in. So I'm starting to get a real separation of surfacing, right? And then what works really well is once you get these sort of in there, SK trim polish, that is way too strong. Calm down there, buddy. And now at this point, I would tend to use, if I'm going to actually draw, SK Carve works really well because it's sort of a flat brush, or the profile of the brush has a flat. Now, I'm just doing that in. Honestly, I probably wouldn't do that. I would build these edges up, and then I'm going to take pinch. What is up with my brush? Oh my god, my dynamic brush scale is ridiculous. That's why. Okay, there we go. And then lightly, very lightly, I'm going to creep these two edges together. You can see I'm doing a lot of little light strokes. I'm not just hammering it, right? I'm just doing really nice light strokes, and I'm creeping the edges towards one another. And what that's doing is creating a very subtle, where's my little thing? Here we go. So instead of getting a surface that looks like this, right? I'm getting a surface that's doing something like just that, right? And what that does is, one, it creates a bright edge right here, and then also it creates a reflection plane like right here. It can still look flat, but just having that very subtle creep up, when you're doing something reflective, it works really well in this sense. Let's go to something highly reflective. Where's our gold? Here we go. So a flat surface is only it's all on or all off, right? You don't, a perfectly flat surface reflects as one plane. Where when we get to something like this, you can see that there's a slight, it's brighter here, and they're still pretty darn flat, so it's going to reflect as one plane, but it gives you a little hot spot that rolls around a touch, and that is going to give you a little bit more visual interest, and it creates motion that you're like, oh, what's that reflection? Okay. Oh, I'm so glad someone has the Sakaki Karu brushes. I mean, I think mine are seriously 10 years old. And the other thing to consider is in these planes, I'm just doing this as a quick example here. If you change their reflectivity areas, or you change the angles on them just a touch, where you push one angle and pull the other, see how that one's hot and this one's dim? And then when this one, you know, they can all be hot there. This one's hot and these are dim. So it gives you a more active reflectivity, and that's something that creates visual interest. That's important. So just keep that in mind. Well, Wraith, we'll try to get him, because Henry is just, you know, he has a new part of his job. And so he moved, and he's really, really a busy person recently. So, you know, with the election stuff and all of that. So it'll be tricky to get him in. So you can be Henry. I give you that permission. But we need to sort that out. I was just trying to get back up and streaming, honestly. Does that make sense? Sorry, I was showing 4 different things, so the one surfacing point wasn't being very helpful. Sorry, tried to do 3 points at once. So yeah, just think about how you're separating these out so they don't look pillowy, so you're retaining that hard surface. Also, if you don't have Lazy Nezumi, consider it, because what it allows you to do is you come in and you can draw a line, and then you come in and draw a line, and then you come in and draw a line, and it allows you to use other rulers. And for this tool alone, look, you can draw circles on things. For that ability alone, Lazy Nezumi's worth every penny. So, especially if you're doing a lot of hard surface modeling, I'd really consider getting Lazy Nezumi. I use it every day. It's a solid part of my workflow. Let's go back to this. All right, so now let's go back and look at everybody, since I was just making a mess. Let's go to this one, I guess. We'll hide this one. I'll hide that one. There we go. And then let's see. Why do I feel like I have something on that shouldn't be on? Okay. And I know you're experimenting in this and that and the other thing, but try to get the thing all going at the same time. The face is great. Honestly, your proportions and stuff are really nice. Like even as you're blocking up the fingers, how these hinges actually, you know, the implication of the hinge is actually working. So as you block up, you have a really good thought process. You're keeping to it. If I'm not mistaken, calf muscles, the inside one's higher. But I mean, it's a robot. No, you know, seeing where it's going, knowing that this is all blocked up, and seeing your detailing here and how you're thinking about it, just how you have sort of this line going, you know, you have these continuations of line and form, and then you sort of have it repeating there. Like you have a really nice view for surface rhythm. No, he looks great. And like I said, you know, seeing where you are and seeing where you're going, I think that it's solid to say that it's it's in good shape. Sorry, my anatomy head's just like, that's the high one, that's the low one. But that's just me being a dork. Ignore me. Why did that go away? Where did it go? It's funny because you got a really nice sort of expressive expression in so few lines. Very nice. It's like a toss between a bear face and like a little insect, but like the shape in here kind of looks like a bear, like a teddy bear. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Yep, looks great. Like I said, think about how you're splitting your planes so they don't look pillowy, so you're retaining your hard surface feeling. Try to keep everything going at the same level so you don't get ahead of yourself in one place and can't match it back up in other places. You might just be good and not do that, but I'm always screwing myself because I come up with a really unique like little and then I blow it. Something's happening with Restream. Did we hold on, let me it says it's there. I'm not seeing Restream chat here. I don't know where the Restream chat window went. Because we used to log into it separately, and now we log into it with OBS straight, so I don't know where the base menu is. Yeah, I don't see anything from Restream brought since Ryan. Yeah, Sean's up here. Yeah, once they were talking about apartments, I haven't seen anything. Hold on, let me see if I can. Let me open YouTube. And maybe I can just look at it. Okay. Oh, frog. Okay, there we go. So I have YouTube stream, so I can try to keep track of I don't know what's happening with Restream. Oh, frog. Okay. Nope. Turn that off. So I have YouTube stream, so I can try to keep track of I don't know what's happening with Restream. Put you here. Oh, frog. Okay. Nope. Turn that off. So I have
What is going on?
YouTube stream, so I can try to keep track of I don't know what's happening with Restream. Put you here. Oh, okay. Nope, I turned that off. So I have... Is the background... Is really my camera just like being a pain and not focusing? Am I pushing the wrong button? I'm just worried I'm about to kill my camera. It's not focusing. One sec. I'm going to turn my camera off and turn it right back on. God only knows if it's working. Okay. Okay. Now I can see both chats. I assume I'm in focus. I'm almost giving up. I have like an outrageously, hellishly expensive camera as a webcam and it won't autofocus. Yeah, no, yeah. Okay. I don't know why I am such a miserable streamer. I I have no control over anything. It's crazy. Okay. No, I think you're definitely on the way. It looks great. I think those are the only things I can really say to think about. I mean, what you've done with the chest and head and started with the shoulders, you know, you continue that through. I wouldn't worry about stickers and that kind of stuff until, I mean, unless you're just playing with it, trying to experiment with it. I get it. But try to get your forms there first, for sure. Oh, I'm in focus. Fabulous. Thank God. Do you have any questions about that? Because honestly, it looks great. Okay. We're going to move on if you have no more questions. Let us delete that. I like this block up. That's great. Cave troll turned into big old robot. Nice. What was the line tool you used? Yeah, Lazy Nezumi. See, it's a plugin. And this gives me, like, you can do radials. You turn it on. And, like, you can, hold on, let me, crack tool. Turn it off, change size of my brush. Let's zoom in. So, like, it has all these different, like, it has French curves. Right, so if you're trying to get, that's just a 2-line curve. So you can line it up. This one is a 3-line curve. You know, and then you grab the tip and you can get it to do, you know. And then circles. Woo! That's so helpful. That's the tool I use every day, being able to drive circles on things. Spirals. These are perspective. So let's say you're trying to get this, but it's sort of in a forced perspective, so you don't want your knee to be totally circular. You can set it up, push your forced perspective to get it to where you want it, and then draw your circle. So you can get it to fit into specific places. These are forced perspective lines, right? And then this is forced perspective to a vanishing point. And this can be cool to layouts, mechanics, and things like that. And then this is fisheye perspective. And you can do some really cool things with that and layout. And then that's single point, vanishing point perspective. Come on. And then you have Lazy Mouse. And then this is a pull Lazy Mouse. But the cool thing about some of these too is that like they have options. So this one, right? Come on. There we go. See how it has a lip sign? So you then turn this back on. And so instead of just drawing a circle, it draws a wave, right? And then it also has, you know, like cog steps. Where is that? It's this one. You know, it's like boom, 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 boom. So it just has tons and tons of features. And what's crazy is that like you can really go in and tune it. Like you can do these weird little scripts and stuff. I mean, it's really advanced what you can do with it. I use a circle. I don't have time to think about like learning how to reprogram my line tools, but I've seen people use it and it's outrageous. I like this tool a lot because you draw and it sort of snaps you into no, it's this one. Yeah. So like it'll lock you. You can go into the menu and you can change the pressures. You can change what angles it locks on. See, straight line, continuous, and this tells you what direction. Like this is going to snap at 45 degrees. You can change this angle, and then when you're drawing, it's not like you need it is just going to see how I'm drawing a straight line, and then I'm drawing a different line, and then I'm drawing. So it's a good way to sort of freehand hard lines, and then you can do 45s. So like if you're drawing in patterns, because I can't tell you how many years I have really kinetic hash marks, but like this is just, you know, so it allows you to do just some really, really cool stuff. It's a super, super helpful tool. Yeah, it's actually a Photoshop plugin is where it started. And anything that has a screen, like it has to have, like it's not every single project or every single application, but you get this window and then you just take this and drag it into the window. And normally I haven't really seen many programs that it won't lock onto. And then it knows that that's the active screen, and then you just go at it. It's an awesome program. It really is. I love it. I use it every day. It lets you do good stuff. Yeah, no, it's super cool. Come on. What are you doing? Get over there. No, I'm not sponsored by Lazy Nezumi. I should be, as much as I pimp it. No, I do try to, like, I'm not sponsored by anyone, but like like the sculpting for, because we have the education platform, ZBrush Jewelry Workshops, I approach companies and see if we can get discounts on things, and then I bring it out here. Like, we had I think it was like a 20% discount off of the books, and then I had a discount on Lazy Nezumi, but it was, I haven't talked to them in a while. So I try to find products I like, and then that way I can get them to you guys. It's not like me trying to, I get nothing from anyone. These are just tools that I love, and I find them super helpful. And I just try to get them out to you guys. So no, I'm not making any money off any of this. Nope. I don't do it. If I only could. No. Okay. Any questions on this, Sean? Where are you? Okay. We are moving on. think that's everybody. So this is Vera. You here, Vera? Nice. Stop it. These look great. I can only imagine this will read really, really well. It looks super nice. Yeah, it's Obred. So those of you in Twitch, someone asked, Obred asked, do I have any tips on getting clients in 3D print field? He wants to do miniatures. I would say there are a handful of miniature forums. I would start hanging out with those. I would go to a local game shop and try to just get some prints into the game shop. And then it tends, like, miniature people are fans, you know, so most of them, I assure you, belong to some Twitch or some now it's TikTok or whatever. I don't know. Forums and stuff have just become so chaotic for me. I just can't even deal with it. I just don't. I'm a if I had only done social media when I started doing social media, instead of just getting peeved and leaving because people drove me nuts. But I would say community is going to be your best way of getting anything out there. And then try to get up on YouTube. Or actually, I guess now TikTok is the thing to do. Make some and just start doing little TikToks. And get out there and like just do 10-second thing of doing this to one. My friend does rings and it's just crazy how much. He has like 87,000 followers on TikTok now. Well, that's implying that TikTok will still be here in 3 weeks after the Senate. We'll see what they do. God only knows. I would suggest that because that's the easiest way to get out there. But local gaming stores, TikTok, I don't. There are probably still YouTube communities, Instagram. I would just get your stuff out there, and then it's tricky. If you actually are going to do it. And I mean, like, you're going to invest money, you're going to invest time, you're going to do real lines. Kickstarter is one of the best ways to get out there for miniatures. All the big print to miniature companies started on Kickstarter. Do your research, learn how to do a Kickstart, and do a Kickstarter. That's the best way. Because even if you, hopefully, set like a $10,000 thing or a $5,000 thing even, and or a $2,000 thing, and just so you make your kick, and then that Kickstarters are just like free press, because I can't tell you how many people I know now that they don't put any money out for their lines. They just put it up on Kickstarter. Like Bill Moyers, John, he does Calamity Wear. He does everything through Kickstarter. A lot of the miniature well, now those two big miniature companies, they're making millions of bucks. They don't need it, but Kickstarter's a good way to go. All right. Actually, I think I mentioned this. We probably are going to, I don't know if we're going to, hopefully we'll get it done this year, maybe next year. We're going to rebrand a little for ZBrush for manufacturing. So a lot of the people see jewelry and they just turn off. You know, they don't understand we're training you to do manufacturing and we're just using jewelry to teach you that. But we want to do some just object stuff and then do some miniatures and toys like ball joints and things like that. So eventually we're going to get there. I'm sorry, Vera, wasn't ignoring you. It just, I yabber. Well, I'll tell you what, your realistic eyes look great. This is super nice. And with, you know, the good painting and the transparencies and stuff, this will look beautiful. A friend of mine is doing ball joint dolls, and she just showed me, she actually was using Midjourney to come up with some of the painting textures, and then, you know, she was using, because it just does these crazy colors and stuff. I think using the generative art stuff to do patterns and stuff is awesome. It's an incredible tool. I was trying to get, so it never was good enough to do, because I was thinking like doing seamless tile patterns in like Midjourney, because it's a way of getting, and eventually hopefully it'll create depth maps soon, detailed depth maps soon, and then that way I can say, hey, so my test was always snake scales with eyeballs or with mouths on them, because I want a seamless tiling pattern. And just, it was never doing it. And then this last upgrade where they did the consistent character upgrade, hold on, let me see if where are those? Let's go. These are actually pretty crazy. Now Ash is never going to talk to me again because I've used generative AI. But for Thailand, like these are some of the scales that I was getting, and so just being able to do scales with eyeballs. Look, you know, it just to use it as a block up for a base pattern, you know, that's crazy, and that's seamless and tileable. Hold on, let me show. What is the? Oh, you all can't see anything. Okay, there we go. I'm like, look at that. That's crazy. But you know, look at some of this stuff. It's like for creating really fast patterns. You know, just, and these are perfectly seamless. Oh, not that. Hold on. Yeah, so I've been trying to do the generative stuff for patterns, because at work, honestly, I don't particularly want to put the time in and fiddle futz with stuff. And if I can just go, hey, give me a brick pattern with eyeball. I mean, look at that. And there's hold on, let me get this viewer. Tile. Seamless viewer. So this is a cool website. Pichung, and it's just a tileless checker, and so you throw it in and you can look at the patterns. But you know, literally 3 weeks ago it wouldn't do this. Actually, I've been playing with Zoe Depth for sure. There's the Zoe Depth that the one guy did that does the second round and refining. I got some pretty good stuff. The problem is, you know, how Zoe Depth and all of those work is it finds a foreground, a background, and a midground. So to do a tiling pattern like this, it's going to make the top ones really bright and the bottom ones back. So it doesn't understand flat with, like, it doesn't understand some of the flat tiling stuff. But I was doing ornate German grotesques because I had to do this weird badge. And you know, when you have like a couple hours, and to be deadly honest, it's not my art at work. You know, there's no point in spending, you know, hundreds of hours trying to resolve an issue when I can just, you know, pump something like this out. And let's face it, I'm sculpting it. You know, none of this stuff is good yet. So you know, but you know, it's creating good tiling patterns. And it did not do this a couple weeks ago. So this last update of Midjourney has done, that's a really cool pattern that you can just use really quickly. So I've been kind of futzing around with Midjourney for repeating tiles, because the amount of time it would take me to sit there and get something to actually tile, this is so much faster. It's just so much easier. Now, how did I lose my Twitch page? Where's Twitch? What did I do with it? Did I just... Oh, no, there it is. Okay. I lost Twitch chat there for a minute. Sorry, guys. Oop, no, stop. There, go. All right. Yeah, so, I think that, using generative AI, a lot of people are really angry about it and really stressed about it. But honestly, it makes me more valuable because I deal a lot with the luxury market. And now that you can dial a seed in and get something that looks almost exactly like what the other people are getting, it really allows me to say I'm not AI. And for the luxury market, that is a huge seller now. But being able to use it to generate patterns and texture, like you can do, just repeating tile, heavy burlap texture, and it'll give you a texture. And it's 3 minutes, and you export it, and it's done. And Stable Diffusion is now coming out with a 3D model thing, and the models are garbage. But what it is... Bye, Rathion. Thanks, my friend. I'll see you next week. Yes, you can turn those into alphas. And that's sort of... for me, I'm not intimidated by AI. I'm not worried about it. I don't have an existential dread about AI because I know that, people are like, oh, it's going to take over the world and kill us all. Right now, these large language models are taking, just billions and trillions of teraflops of, compute. And the problem is they're not even close. Well, I guess ChatGPT 5 may be close, but these things aren't close to AGI. And, the other thing is, I don't think people understand the amount of power it takes to run these things. It's like there's never going to be some secret robot plant in the middle of the desert. It's going to glow from space. The amount of compute it takes to run ChatGPT, and then to actually get that to step up to the complexity and the chips, like the new NVIDIA chips that was Blackwell or something like that. These things, it's like rooms and rooms and rooms of GPUs, and it's just... And I think the only people who are going to really lose their jobs are mediocre artists, because craft is still always going to win out. I know people are peeved because their art gets used in it. At least it changes it, man. I get knocked off by people all the time. I'm not stressed about someone using my style. It's like, man, once you actually are out there and start selling stuff, people steal your work every day. Whatever. I just, it's here. It's not going anywhere. So let's try to work around it. Because I'll tell you what, by the end of the year, the world could change if ChatGPT 5 is serious. And it's like manufacturing's going to change. And it just comes down to we are actually going to have to make real social changes. And that means, a post-labor economy. And yeah, welcome to the world that's going to change. I can't tell you, just the fact that over 3 weeks, ChatGPT or Midjourney would not create good seamless tiles, to it's now creating perfect seamless tiles. Well, I'm using ZBrush. Everyone freaked out when ZBrush came out because I was sculpting for 30 years before ZBrush came out. My friend Dave showed it to me, and I was like, that's the future. And people were like, oh, it's going to take our jobs. Well, yeah, you know what? It took some of our jobs for sure. But you just have to, you know, find out how to use it as tools as opposed to using it to be your brain. If you're dependent on this generative stuff to create your art, you're in trouble. Because everyone else is, I mean, it's a seed. Anyone can do it. You know, you don't, all you have to do is type a seed in a description and everyone can get basically the same image. So, yeah. And, you know, is it taking other people's arts and this and that? Yeah, but so is the internet. I mean, if I look at someone else's, see, I don't think most people have had the experience of having their work knocked off a lot. I mean, early on, I got knocked off constantly. And you're just like, there comes a point where you're just like, well, you know, you deal with it, move on, or, you know, it shuts you down. And I just think we have to stay positive. And like I said, they're here. They're not going anywhere. So let's just learn how to deal with it. And man, I'm being totally... How do you go to dark mode on these things? Is it under settings? I'm getting so much reflection from all these white things. Yeah, no. And it's really funny if you notice this happened basically this week last year that they released ChatGPT 3, and he went on went on to Lex's and talked about what was coming. I haven't seen the interview with Lex, but yeah, no. And what's really funny, in 2012, Altman wrote a paper. It's interesting to look up because he actually shows a map or a pathway to how to come to a post-labor economy. I mean, he actually, back then, he was thinking this is going to change the world. And you got to think in 2012, that's the time frame that Elon dumped him, because he literally said there is absolutely 100% no way that they're ever going to do AGI, and that's why he left. But he left because they didn't give it to Tesla is why he left. But, you know. No, I'll give Altman a lot of credit, man, because he's not just thinking about how it is. He's actually thinking about how we are coming to a paradigm shift in society. And he's coming up with very real solutions, or at least pathways to try, you know. And I've been saying this for, I mean, I've been talking about this for, 10 years about us having to come to a post-labor economy, because we are on that ramp. And the second AI is actually designing things, oh, dude, it's going to be ridiculous. Is it appearance? Mode? Divide? Dark? Yeah, look at that. Now I'm not just a glowing white face. Hold on, let me do this to this one. Where was that? I already lost it. Hold on. Chrome, settings, appearance. Chrome, where's settings? Settings. Okay. Isn't that much nicer? Am I not just glowing? I just thought I was like getting totally blown out there. No. How come this isn't in dark mode? Come on, just give me dark mode. Appearance. Dark. Okay. I guess Twitch doesn't have dark mode. Are there Twitch settings that I can put on dark mode? Uh-oh. No, I just got off my own page. Whatever. I'm just getting blown out. Who cares? Okay. So that's that. I like how... Yeah, neither Twitch or YouTube. Are those things that are in those that... Appearance... Dark theme. Alright, that's good. One step at a time here. Ba-bum. Dark theme. Yeah. There we go. Look at that. It helps. I'm not just blown out now. I know, like, everyone cares that I'm blown out. Am I still just completely blown out, or am I hallucinating? Oh, here, you'll like this. So this was as good as I could get repeating scales. Isn't that crazy? They just look like eggs. It didn't understand scales at all. And this was August last year, and that's as good as it was. And that took a lot of work to even get there. Crazy. Crazy talk. All right. Oh, so Vera, I'm sorry, Vera, you just got stuck in the middle of the Yabberfest here. Well, it's just so much easier to talk about drama. Oh, AI is going to plow over our villages. Really, man? Not right now. It's not going to do that right now. I don't think I'm ever going to live to see that problem. Because the other thing is, like, there's not going to be just, like, Skynet. There's not going to be one AI. It's going to function like a business. You're going to have small AIs that do very specific tasks. And then you can have other AIs that monitor those tasks. And then you can have other AIs that monitor the monitors. And then you can have other AIs that are monitoring the monitors. So there's tons of time to catch these things. Now, the issue with ChatGPT 5 being able to crack government, if it can actually crack some of the code, the level of, I can't remember, it's not ANSCII, cryptology, the encryption, that does become a problem, because if it can crack that level of encryption that they're talking about in this white paper, that means they can crack all banking. So banking could collapse. So that could be a threat, but I hope that there is no one who is so irresponsible that they don't develop a new encoding system that can't be cracked, or you can always stay ahead of the cracking. So I think that's the only quote-unquote existential threat, is the ability to crack all encryption that we have right now. But hopefully you create a machine that creates encryption that can't be cracked. Or it says, you know, the nice thing, if it's run by AI, you could feasibly have sort of what the Germans and were doing, where like Enigma, where, you know, each side is, you know, every person has their own basically Enigma machine, and then it technically can't be cracked for now. But that's the one I think is the existential threat. All right, Vera. Sorry. Are you still here, or did you have to? Or did I drive you away by talking about existential drama? Oh, at some point, I don't know. For those of you who have been with me a long time, you might have remembered my my Trump and the Three Monkeys. So it was speak evil, hear evil, see evil, and tweet evil, and it was Trump on the toilet. I'm redoing that because it was tweet evil, and now it's X. And so my friends at Super Chief Gallery are releasing an NFT based on these rings that I did, and I want to release that as an NFT where it's here. I have to show you this. Sorry, Vera, one more time. I have one more stupid thing to show you because it's super funny. Where did Midjourney go? Oh, here, let's just load this while we're here. So because it is, because it's now Twitter, or it was Twitter, but now it's Elon, I'm going to turn the speak here and see evil things into Elon as a chimpanzee. Hold on, where is he? Come on. Oh my. Elon Space Popes. He should be like right here. I've been doing a lot of funny Elon stuff. It won't let you do Trump anymore, but you can do weird Elon stuff. Where is the other nice thing? Like for we've been doing product photography at work, and generating really fast backgrounds for the actual jewelry. I did rounds, and then we just replace our jewelry in it. It's another really good use. Here you go. No, that's... Come on, Elon as a chimp. Where's my Elon as a chimp? Oh, there's some. Elon as chimpanzee. And then I started doing Elon as chimpanzee screaming or yelling. Come on. Where'd you go? There are tons of these things. Oh, here you go. Look at these. These are ridiculous. Elon Musk chimpanzee screaming. Come on, man. That's funny. All right. So now I have big Elon fans who are now going to hunt me down. All right. Enough of my silliness. I know that we're supposed to be... yeah, Elon Space Monkey Pope. If we have time, I'll go back and show you some of those. Some of those are spectacular. Right? It's horrifying. But what's nice about it is I did it from front view, left and right, and so I don't have to think about painting these things. I could just take those. They're all the same color scale, and I could just use the spotlight to paint it on, so I don't have to worry about it for the NFT. It makes it fast. Hi, Carius. I know. It was a little scary. So I did this earlier in depth, so you can go back and look at it. But honestly, I think that your anatomy here is awesome. I love how you have the cock in the back, the kind of, scoop to the neck that it's a little standing. Your balance is nice. One thing I would say, boom, nope, skew. Remember the ear should roughly be over the ankle. So it's leaning just a touch forward for a good balance. That's a little bit better balanced, right? Because center of the ear, center of the ankle. Just so it can actually bear its weight. I know that's persnickety, but your anatomy's great. And I like how you've distorted your anatomy, but it's still, you have good anatomical instincts. You know how the buttocks actually lay, your back's really nice. Even this subtle, your anatomy feels really good. And then the only thing I would say is make sure you get your full layering. And I can tell you haven't gone to it, but make sure that this layer actually does it. Just remember, it's always bicep is under and deltoid is over. So it's a nice step there. So don't let that get muddy. But once again, I know this is really early on, so take that as it will. but yeah, I mean, in the where it is at, there's no use getting persnickety over details, but your overall, you may want to have, it's hard to say things because, it's obviously still in rough up, or, it's not a finished thing, but, don't forget that is, this is a distinctive edge there, because that actually goes pretty deep in. So let that have space in there. Especially with something this emaciated, sort of, you do get a solid return there. And it's an important silhouette, and it's an important silhouette that a lot of people screw up. Make sure you get that return in there. Yeah. No, it's a fabulous androgynous design because it has hips but no breasts. It's not small. The shoulders are broad, but the rib cage is small, which is a really interesting decision, because it has a broad shoulder, but the second you get to the hips and the waist, but, you have a female waistline, but the thighs are actually kicking up a little more. You have long lower legs, which tends to be feminine. So it is a very interesting androgynous. And by making the calf muscles angular, you're removing that, the female curves, by making parts sharp, by keeping the hips smooth and your calves sharp. You're pulling that masculine and feminine in. I think you're doing a very, very good job with androgyny here. But you're going to have to be careful with the face. It's just so lovely and feminine. It's going to be hard to sell androgyny that way. Also, be careful with the clavicle being over the deltoid. It sinks in there. The delt is above the clavicle here. So, don't have it quite so proud. Have the deltoid cover it. Or not. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Right, it kind of sits in. It sort of sits like right there. And once again, this is stylized. That might have been a stylized thing you were going for, so don't let me change your sculpt in that concept, but yeah. I have 256 gigs of RAM. Yeah, actually, I have Topaz as an upscaler. It's a really good upscaler, and it really removes. It's noise removing and it's sharpening. It's nice. And by keeping the buttocks sort of flat as opposed to really accenting, the feminine buttocks, I think you did a really good job with androgyny. Because like if you just put, a dent. Oops. What did I just change that brush to? I didn't. Okay. If you just put, that dent there, it becomes pretty darn male. So I think you did a really good job with that. Yeah, I'd really like to see where this goes, honestly. It's looking good. Yeah, right. All right. Do you have any questions after me spending a half hour not talking about your part? Cool. Really nice work. Seriously. For as loose as you are getting in, you really hit the key things that that make the form. Do remember also though that this muscle actually crosses over this bone. And most people don't have that muscle, so you can get away with it. But this muscle definitely crosses over and connects. It sort of, well, okay, my muscle crosses over that bone. It does connect back up here, but often you get, it sort of rolls over the bone there. But this isn't bulked out, so ignore what I just said. You know how you always sculpt yourself? I have that muscle on me is huge, and I often forget that. Ignore me. One of the things I'm stuck on is material breakups. Exactly what do you mean, material breakups? Do you mean like texturing or... See, this is where hopefully within the next couple weeks we'll get the Discord going so we can actually talk. Oh, yeah. It really just comes down to controlling, like metal just becomes very planular, and yeah, it's tricky. To be fair, it's tricky. If you bring some things in, you know, we can talk about it as you bring some other stuff in, and we can sort of tune some of that stuff if you like, because yeah, your feet are fabulous. Like just your ankle knowledge and the fact that your feet are flatter here, as opposed, you know, most people put these huge arches in and stuff. Your anatomy's good. Next week, bring some texture stuff in and we can play with it for sure. Okay. Give me 1 second. I need to run to the restroom really quick. I will be right back. Give me a minute. Oh. Howdy ho! You know what? It's funny, curious. I used to sketch a lot, and then I now just do everything in ZBrush. Honestly, I don't. I'm quick enough that I can do like what I call my visualizations. Like now I do so how I like if I'm just jamming trying to, you got to think right now I do mostly, I'm working for a company called Anatometal. I do tiny little jewelry for body jewelry. So, but even if I'm doing like big ornate stuff, often what I do is I'll start with a star. And it's basically just sketching, right? But I do my sketching in ZBrush in this sense where plane, and then I'll just do 20. Nope, hold on. No. Stop. Undo. Turn that on. Sliders is up to turn that on. 20. Resize subtool. Frame. And then I'll divide this up. I think it hits like 16,000 is usually where it. Come on. Yeah, 16.7. And I will normally start sketching here where, what is going on? Where's my brush? Clay tubes. Oh. There we go. So I'll just start playing with shapes like that. And then this way I can start to feel like a visual vocabulary going. And I can start playing with planes and just start to understand how I want my forms to kind of play out, you know. So this is how I do most of my sketching now. I hope so. That's sort of the plan. We'll see what happens. It's hard because everyone's really busy, and it's tricky because sadly, well, not sadly. I mean, it was intentional. How I designed it, where it's $1,000 for lifetime. You know, that means, I mean, we're not supporting 4 people with that. You know, and that's where we need to get in front of more people. Because, you know, the jewelry thing is sort of killing us because people don't associate with jewelry. Like people who want to do miniatures and people who want to do toys. And we're missing all of them because they don't understand we are teaching ZBrush for manufacturing and they don't get it. So that rebrand is something that needs to happen. I still have 2 videos that sort of complete some of the jewelry stuff that I need to get done. Well, they're done. I just have to get them. I can't access my thing. I should probably just redo them and just brace up. But, and there are a handful of jewelry things to finish, make 3, 4 videos. And then just kind of do a miniature set, do a thing. And then maybe we'll sell those as like classes. So we can start generating money because, you know, I wanted to do the lifetime membership thing so we have a community where people don't have to fall off if they can't afford this month's thing. But, yeah, we need to wrap our heads around it a little more. It's tricky because, you know, I got 4 other people involved and, you know, it was just me and, you know, I don't care if I make money, but at the end of the day, when you have other people involved, they kind of need to make money. So it's like, how do we do it? And, well, if I knew how to make money, I'd be rich because I make a lot of other people rich. So it's sort of, you know, working on it. Let's put it that way. And then, you know, you go from here, and then you can just thicken it. And now you have a more dimensional object that you can start playing with and tuning. And then now with the knife tools, you just slice the back off, and you're going. So I find this is how I sketch far more often than I don't touch paper anymore. I tried to draw the other day, and I was like, oh my God, I can't draw at all. It's so depressing. Because I used to be a pretty good draftsman, or, you know, technical drawer. I could do life drawing. I mean, at school we did life drawing every other day, so I was pretty good. But yeah, no, those days are long gone. Yeah, so that's how I sketch. All right, what do we have here? This is, who is this? This is Ungoloff, stylized pirate mage. And again, if I mangle your name, don't hate me. I mangle my name. All right, well, save that. That's the next one. Okay, what do we have here? Boop. You go over here. Now I can see that. We got that there. Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff comes in the community. Also, every Sunday I do office hours. So from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I sit in a GoToMeeting room, and our students come in and ask questions and this and that. And the nice thing about our community is we have a lot of professionals in it. So it's helpful to ask those questions in the community, and then you get like 5 or 10 different opinions from people who are slightly different, you know, because I mean, all I can say about like portfolio stuff, and this is, people get mad at me when I say this, is look at the job you want, right? People are like, oh, well, how do I impress in this and that and this? Look at the job you want. And let's say I want to work on Bethesda's games, so I'm going to, what is the best visual, you know, or technical game they have? Okay, Starfield. As far as the models, and far as the this and that and the other thing. So can I create models and assets that could be in Starfield and get to the point where it does that? If I want to work at this, make sure that I can do it before I go. Because understand this. You now, how old are you? Okay. I mean, you don't have to tell me, but the thing to understand is this, is that now kids have access to this stuff. Like Blender's free. So kids can start playing with Blender at like 4. You know, I mean, my friend had his daughter playing with ZBrush when she was like 6, and she made stuff. It was really impressive. And so you are up against, I mean, luckily this generation doesn't have a lot of drive, so that's helpful. But you know, it's it just comes down to having to be good, and that just means you have to spend a lot of time getting good. You know, it's just like if you want to be a Formula 1 driver, you have to go through kart, and then you have to go through Formula 3, and then you have to go through Formula 2. And then if you are competent, you can get in a chance at a seat in Formula 1, you know. So, and it's really that many people want to race, and it's those like 22 people that get to race. And, you know, if you want to do AAA games and things like that, man, you got to be good, you know. And so it just comes down to busting your ass, putting in the hours, putting in the, you know, people are like, oh, Tomas, you know, you were a natural. It's like, dude, I literally sold my first piece of sculpture in 1978. And I've been sculpting since 1978. And actually, I was sculpting before that. I just got to the point where I could actually make things that people would buy at our little, every weekend there was like a, on the, I don't know, what do you call it? Like the public square on the lake, they had a, it wasn't just an art walk, but it's, it was sort of people would come there. So they had restaurants on the thing, and I had a little booth. And in 1978, I was selling $150, $200 a week. I mean, I could almost pay our rent when I was 9, literally. I mean, that's not just I used to walk to school and blah, blah, blah. So, I was literally an obsessive compulsive kid. So all I did was sit and obsess on things until I got good at them. So much of it is man hours. Just put in the work and get good. End of the day, that's what it is. If you have a spectacular portfolio because everything you touch looks great, guess what? You're going to get a job. And it just sounds so simplistic and disregarding. But if you can do the job incredibly well, you'll get a job. That's really what it comes down to. And I would say the other thing is, find out where these people are, hang out with them, because there are hundreds of people who are really good. And the people who get the job are the people who are people's friends, or you're a step above everyone else. People hire people they know, or people hire people they're blown away by. There it is. Yeah, I was just throwing it out there. I mean, I have to say that I really enjoyed playing Starfield for a while because there was nothing like going to weird planets, sitting down and watching sunsets and stuff. I'm not really the most competitive gamer in the sense of I go out and try to conquer everything. Like Cyberpunk 2077 is my favorite game in the world because I grew up reading Cyberpunk before there were any visualizations of the stuff. And then when Blade Runner came out, that was the 1983. That's really when the cyberpunk literature really blew off, is the early 80s. And that was my youth. That's what I read. I was all into it. And now Cyberpunk 2077 is beautiful. I mean, it's just a stunning game. Now, you also have to understand that I have that big black thing right there is a Sony Bravia brand new, like their flagship ridiculous TV. And that's my bed. So I sit on my bed and Cyberpunk on that thing. And it is so crystal clear. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. Are you... Hold on. Is someone out there or is it listening to me? Oh. God. My living room security camera is still on. It's like, hey, someone's moving in your living room. Hey, someone's talking. Yeah, it's me, you ding dong. All right, so that's what's been making all that noise all the time. I'm like, okay, I have like 300 notices. Yeah, that's hard. I mean, what I would say about that is this. Make a lot, right? When you start on a project and you're working on it and you get tripped up a little or you feel like you're not progressing, coming to someone like me or something like that and getting some feedback is always great. And that can kick you on and put you in a direction. But like if you don't have, the feedback loop, or you can't bring stuff here or bring someone who you think has a good eye, just start something else and start something completely different. Like if you're doing this figure, right, and you're getting frustrated with it and you're like, I just can't get the fabric right, make a car. And the other thing I do is if I have any free time, I'll just pick something. Like I'll pick a Vespa scooter and I will try to make that as perfect as I can. I get tons of references. I research it. I do this. And then I have another model in my library. But it takes my brain off of the fabric and I can't get this hair right and this and that and the other thing. Or I will pick a hairstyle, and I'll sit there and I will sculpt it until it looks great. Or I will pick, and da-da-da-da. It's just, if you start getting mentally cramped, find something that's almost the exact opposite of what you're doing. And the beauty of, when I say copying things, it's where you're trying to get, try to get it exactly as it is. And copying is an incredibly powerful learning tool. And what I mean by that is, if you're trying to copy something, like I have Napoleon's bicorn. Okay. You're like, oh, well, that's simple. Well, it's not, because there are top stitching patterns, there are material differences, there are da-da-da. And the thing about copying is, if you're honest with yourself, you know if you're right or wrong, right? I mean, there's no... The thing about copying is that there's no opinion. It either looks like it or doesn't. Failure and success are very easy to figure out. Either it looks like it or it doesn't. And that allows you to stay... Where people screw themselves when they're trying to learn is they try to design and do something out of their head. So then not only do you have the technical, I don't have the technical prowess to accomplish this, you're also going, oh, well, my design sucks. I mean, designing isn't for beginners, right? You have to learn your craft before you become savvy enough to be able to design without having to think about the craft. Like, I don't think about what brushes I use. I don't think... That's why I had to beg Eric to come make our beginning videos. I am the worst beginning teacher in the world because I can't remember. I just work. I don't think about what I do half the time. And it's been really fascinating when I started teaching, was because I just did things assuming people understood what was going on. And then you realize, like, oh, I have to go back and explain, well, they don't really have them anymore, but I have to explain that thing that comes out of your computer isn't a cup holder. You know, I mean, that's how rudimentary you have to get about things sometimes. So only by mastering your craft does it give you the freedom to really be able to be creative, right? So break your training up between design and being creative and craft. I can accomplish anything. Because after, 12, 13 years, whatever it was, in the film industry, man, we had to do rocks. We had to do Laocoon classic Greek sculpture. We had to do Roman sculpture versus Greek sculpture. We had to do animals. We had to do columns. We had to do spaceships. We had to do rocks. We had to do trees. So no matter how awesome the sculpt was in Hollywood, it was always my craft. It was never my art. And that's a real important thing to wrap your head around is, almost nothing I do now is my art. It's all my craft. And I do some things that also have my design craft, but it's not my art, right? Because normally I'm doing it for someone else. So that's not my art. And being able to separate your art, your design craft, and your sculpting craft is also the other thing that's incredibly... It's one of the few ways to stay sane, because if you get wrapped up in all of this being your art, but you're working for someone... A game, a movie, all of it, those are collaborative processes. And you can participate by sharing your craft. But very, very rarely are any of those things going to be your art. And I think that's... You have to approach your training... excuse me. You have to approach your training, your exercise and tuning, to understand what you're training, right? You're like, oh, I just don't know if I'm being efficient. Well, are you getting better? If you're getting better, you're being efficient. If you keep... The other thing is sculpt your way through blocks. I don't have creative blocks in the sense of creative blocks. Like, I tried to do this belt buckle last week, but I had so many different, there was like 14 things that could have been on it, and it was like this big random thing. And I couldn't do it. It just, nothing I did worked. And so I shifted, did something else, and then I went back, and it, you know, my subconscious had time to click through it and figure out how to accomplish it. So if you're still trying to learn technically, I would say copy. Find something that has a bunch of different views of it. Don't be silly and get like a 3/4 top view of something and then try to do it. Make sure you have something that you can have tons of references on, and then just try to match it. And then, like, you know, like on the Vespa scooter, like I picked a 1967 Vespa scooter. So I could take pictures, I could lay it on top of it and see if things lined up. Like, you know, measuring doesn't lie. You know, it's right or wrong. And then that allows you just to focus on being right. And then your eye gets trained to see the subtleties of right and wrong, right? And so don't mix up design projects and craft projects, because if you're getting frustrated with your craft and then you are getting frustrated with your design, you're already beating yourself into a hole. So I think that's what I would say about, and get people you trust to give you input all the time. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, no, and I mean, I have a machine, you know, I don't have a 4090, I have a 3090, 256 gigs of RAM, and a Threadripper Pro. So I can actually run Cyberpunk at its like top. It is, dude, it's ridiculous. The other night, I fell to the ground and I was looking through a puddle, but I was looking at the reflection, and there was a dead person in front of me. And I was looking at the reflection of the neon light behind me that was bouncing off of the puddle and was in their eye. And it's just glass clear. It's just like, holy hell, these people. It was awesome. And people were like so disappointed with it at the beginning. I was like, no, it's awesome. I mean, how can you not love like running down the street and someone T-poses and floats by? You guys are taking your gaming way too seriously. That is funny. All right. I already forgot who is this. Sorry. Ungoloth, stylized pirate mage. All right. All right, let's turn off our paint. Let's actually look at our sculpt. All right, I see you getting there. And no, I had done some work with some gaming people early on, and honestly, they weren't going to pay me. Did I just crash? Oh no, a different page opened. Okay, that just freaked me out. I was like, what? The problem is getting used to Hollywood money. And the game industry is just so competitive with, I mean, there's just 100 billion people. But I had done some stuff for EA, and I had done some stuff for, no, I can't remember. There's another big gaming company in LA. I don't remember. But like, I was always like that, the special case, because I never studied like skins and all that crap, but I was doing, well, honestly, at the time I was doing sculpts that very few people could do, only because I did a private job and I got paid about $85,000 for it. And I mean, this was 2000 and no, 2005, 2006, 2006, 2006 or so. And I spent $16,000 on a computer. And I had more RAM than, like, no one at the time, even the big studios, like, no one at the time ever thought about spending that. Now, I mean, that would probably be $25,000-$30,000 now, you know. So I just bought the best of everything. And I could work on models that were, you know, hundreds of thousands of polys. And back then, like, it would crash if your model was more than, was it 3 gigs? Like, if your model was 3 gigs, it would just crash. It didn't understand how to do that. It was like R3 or R4. I think it was R4 where you could finally save a model that was more than 3 gigs. And yeah, I was the person who did that. I had monstrous models. And so I could produce things, like I could work on mesh densities that no one could touch because, you know, I basically spent, you know, a new Ford on a computer instead of a car. And I mean, that machine lasted almost 12 years where I was still an alpha predator. And this thing is a badass. But I'll tell you, if I get another, if I get funding for this new shop, I'm definitely getting one of the new Threadrippers. The new Threadripper Pro is ridiculous. I mean, it's like 164 threads. It's so fast. It's just so ridiculous. No, I didn't have any interest in learning the crap you needed to learn. I was much more interested in making objects, you know, physical objects. So it was just a natural extension of, like, I was designing shoes and chairs and all kinds of crap. And just, it wasn't that was too competitive. It was just so oversaturated. And nobody was making games in the themes that I sculpted, right? I didn't want to go back to making, you know, oh, here, you're going to make pockets for Laura Croft. That does not sound compelling to me at all. And for a while, I was a physical portrait sculptor. I did large bronze portrait stuff, and I did 2 marble portraits. That was my money for a while, was doing portrait sculpting. And I just got, because let's face it, anyone who can afford a portrait like that is probably a prick. So I dealt with a lot of pricks. And so the gaming industry was also full of a lot of that young hot rod blood, and everybody's like, ah, ooh, ah. And the culture didn't really appeal to me. And I didn't, just trying to do portraits and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't particularly care for it. It just, I mean, I just left the film industry, and, you know, the gaming industry is a lot like, it's the same people. I was going to say something nasty, like the gaming industry is just full of the people who couldn't make it into the feature film industry. And so they act like people who were they act worse than the people who were in the feature film industry because they couldn't make it. But that's a snotty thing to say. Yeah, exactly. The other thing is most people didn't want to deal with meshes. So and I was creating models that like 3 people could open. I'll never forget when Dynamesh first came out, and I Dynameshed, we were doing the beta, and I Dynameshed this model that was like 28 million polys. And Paul was just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, that was designed to use for like under 8,000 polys. And I was like, oh, well, it works fine. And for first class, I taught, oh, those poor bastards. You know, I have this computer where I could do all this crap. I'm not thinking about it at this point because I've had the computer's like 6 years old at that point or something like that. And I'm just doing all this, and all of my students, the computers crashed when they tried to do the stuff. It took me like 2 weeks to figure out the problem was not that they just couldn't do it. I'm telling them to sculpt it like, 35, 40 million polys. And yeah, the computers just wasn't dealing with that back then. So I literally had a corner on the market for about 6 years where literally no one could sculpt what I was doing because no idiot was going to spend that much money on a computer to do ZBrush. So actually, this machine, I had the fastest benchmarks on that machine when I first got it. I was the fastest computer running ZBrush of their benchmarks. I beat out Ulfer by like that much. But I can only imagine that's not true now. I mean, probably anyone who has a 4090 is going to process better. Well, I mean, I have models that are, with the 100,000 poly per subtool limit, I know of a model. I have we were building the interior of a G-Wagon, and so it was sculpted to full scale because we were just going to have them routed and then have the fiberglass pressed onto the routing. And that had something like, it was probably 120 subtools, and all of them were in the 70 to 90 million poly. I think some of those are like 60 gigabyte files. When you open a ZBrush file, it takes like 8 to 9 minutes for it to open. I finally got to the point where I just split it out to different tools: interior, exterior, front side. But for a while there, yeah, I just kept it in one tool until literally it took like 10 minutes to open. I'm like, all right, it's time to split this model up. That's silly. I'll tell you, it'll be very fascinating. I saw the NVIDIA, they had I don't know, what do you call it, a pep rally or whatever, where they were introducing the new AI chips. And when that stuff starts creeping down into home computers, holy Hannah. Some of those things are just outrageous. These are all still rack towers, and like he's showing the one chip board, and he's like, yeah, this is like $10 billion because that's what all the research and development cost to get to actually having that chip. And there's, oh my God, it was like 108 billion individual, I can't think of what they're called, tasks, tokens. That's just mind-bending. It's ridiculous. And then, as soon as that technology starts rolling down, Jesus Christ, it's going to be insane. The level of compute that we are now starting to generate is crazy. And if OpenAI gets that, what was it, $7 trillion they want to build a chip plant? Think about it. When you actually get the AI to start generating, that's how NVIDIA has made, the massive leaps, is they have their AI designing or helping design. It's not AGI, so it's not doing it independently, of course, but they have their AI designing chips. And I think they said it has, Blackmore, I think is what it called. It said it has 10,000 chips embedded into the thing in 2 presses. And the chips like this. It's absurd how much compute they get on something like it's crazy. And the board that was their prototype board is sort of like this. And then he showed the new board, and it's like this. It is so crazy, the exponential growth of the chip technology, because now everybody's focusing on chip technology. It's wild. The new Mac Studio with its monitor, I've been told, is better than a PC. It might be better than like a cheap PC, but I don't think there's an Apple that you can get with you know, a terabyte of RAM and, you know, the chips. I'd really love to see how it compares to, you know, a Threadripper Pro. I don't think it'd come close to a Threadripper. You know, I mean, I think that, you know, your average laptop, I'm sure that they're very competitive, but they don't make computers like that anymore. They used to, but they just don't make, or it'd probably cost 5 times as much. But it's really fascinating, you know, the fact that, you know, they've announced that they're doing a ZBrush for iPads, because the iPads now have the laptop chip in them, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the next generation iPad, they were saying, will have the M3 chip in it, and I think they're going to offer one that has like a 4 terabyte drive in it or something like that. It's mind-bending. Like, so with those specs, I imagine that it could actually be a full version. You know, I mean, if they get a full version on iPad, that'll be crazy. So I have a story about Maya. So in 90, maybe 95, 96, might have been 97, but I don't think so. I was hired by Maya as a sculpting consultant, and it was called Artisan at that time, their sculpting in Maya thing. And I was getting paid really well. And every week I told them the same thing, because they'd give me, all we were doing is I had a mesh, and then they'd work out tools and I'd just play with the mesh. But the mesh resolution was like 72 square, you know, 72 polys. And they're like, so can you tell the difference between the the half round tool and the V tool? I'm like, no, you need more mesh resolution. And for like 3 months, I think, and this is, you know, in the mid to late 90s, I think they were giving me something like $3,000 a week or something like that. It was a lot. And my only response was ever, you need more mesh density, because there's absolutely no tool fidelity. You know, there's just, like, you could tell the difference between the V and the square, and then you could sort of get a half tone because it was tessellated, you know, or, oh my God, it was ridiculous. They hated me. Oh my God, that was a long time ago. All right, I'm sorry. Here we go again. Oh, what time is it? Oh, we only have 15 more minutes. Crappus! I'm sorry. I'm sitting here yabbering. Okay, so the one thing I would say at this point is that the clothes are too big for the body. If you look at the armpit, you know, in all reality, these armpits should be snake hook, infinite, let's get the infinite Z. You got to remember that, you know, where's his armpit? Hold on, let's look at his body. I might be talking out my ass for a second. Hold on. Yeah, no. So you got to remember that if a coat's armpits are too low, you can't raise your arm. So armpits tend to be pretty tight up to the arm. That way you can raise your arms. So be careful about making the clothing too baggy or too over large, because one, it'll look super simplistic, and then two, just as a functional object, it can't work. That's why they put gussets in armpits, so you can raise them. So just remember, where's the coat? Transparency. I mean, look at how low that armpit is, right? So if you're making clothes, don't exaggerate the scale off the body too much, because you got to remember that these things are actually sitting on the body. So if you make the clothes, I mean, if you look at scale, you know, that's like 3 inches off each side. You know, you start adding that up, you have an airspace, you know, like if you drag the front to the back, let's say these were pants, you drag the front to the back, you'll have like 4 or 5 inches of airspace there. So think about the clothing as something that is actually attached to the body. It's not something that floats around the body. So that's what's making, I was like, you know, the face seems pretty realistic, but the clothing seems pretty cartoony. Once again, this could be your goal, and if it is, well, then you're succeeding. But be careful with the garments, because, you know, you have something that is, you know, a fairly realistic object that, you know, this body is realistic, right? And then you put the clothes on and it turns into an animation. You know, your pants and stuff are, let's, transparency. You know, if you think about pants, right? I'm going to divide this. You know, oops, that's not clay tubes. You know, that's probably how tight pants are fitting, you know. And so let's look at where are your pants? Pants. And these are sort of pantaloony, but even so, where's my body? No, you did a pretty good job there. And I'm assuming these are, but, you know, pirate probably isn't going to wear, I mean, unless it's like the big, like, swabby pantaloons. Someone who has a fitted coat is probably going to have slightly more fitted pants, just as far as the uniform goes. But the coat really, like, the pants aren't bad. But the coat is just, this armpit just makes it really look cartoony. So you want to make sure that because if you look at coats, you'll almost never see the entire armpit, right? You're going to see that, and then you'll see sort of like a pec and the bicep. You're going to see it coming together. Because it's going to be touching there, right? But your armpit, you're not going to be able to see it. It's going to be inside a fold. It's going to be more like that. You see how that looks like a coat, and this looks like a bath robe? These are like raglan sleeves, where a coat is going to have a much tighter fit in that joint. And then usually you get a pinch wrinkle like there. Right? In anything that's fitted, the sleeve won't drop on the shoulder. It'll be, think of a vest, right? And then the sleeve attaches to that. So the shoulder is going to be up on that, or the shoulder seam is going to be up over that deltoid, because once again, just mobility, you can't have it dragging or it restricts movement. Collar. If that makes any sense. That's still down on the shoulder too much. But if you go and look at coats, it's going to fit a little bit more like that. So try to wrap your head around the actual sizing of the clothing. The actual figure looks nice. And, you know, obviously, depending on where you want or how stylized hair is and things like that, the portrait looks great. You know, obviously, the hair is just blocked in at this point. But, yeah, I think the thing, just work out how the fabric is actually, look at photo references and try to match it. That's what I'd say about it. But it looks great. I just think that you need to put a little bit more, look at more referencing for the clothing, because you'll never have this big of an, I mean, look at that. That's going, that sleeve's down to here on the chest, right? You know, that's just way too big. Well, the body looks great, honestly. I mean, the body and the head and that looks fabulous. You know, I think you're doing fine there. I just think you need to actually look at your clothing referencing, because you'd never have an armpit that big on a coat that you plan to move in. But it looks really good. Play with the clothing and bring it back next week and let's look at it. I didn't realize it was so late. We have about another 5 minutes. Yeah, no, I mean, the figure itself looks really nice. And not that the clothes look like they suck. I'm just saying, I mean, this is really nice, clean anatomy. The face is nice. I mean, it's good. Your anatomy is good. But I would say definitely look at some, he's leaning back a little. Well, it's pretty close actually. Oops, stop it. Just remember ear to ankle. Yeah, see, he's leaning back just a touch. But like you have the pecs and all that in the right place. You have nice torso weight. I mean, if we're just looking at the body, it looks good. That's why it's surprising that the clothing turned into balloony and comical, or balloony and characterized, I guess, caricatured. So if you're going to do clothes, find photo references and try to match your photo references. And I mean, it can be a painting, it can be anything, but just try to get that in, because you know, you had an image of a coat in your head that had the seams in it and stuff, but you didn't look at the armpits. You know, a bicorn isn't going to be flat because this is all tension. Bicorns also, they don't do this. It's just a cap. It's like a bowler. And then it's a large brim that's folded around it. So I would say just spend a little bit more time with your clothing references and try to match what you see. Well, I mean, it's... Come on, where am I? Where are eyeballs? Why are you not showing up? What am I doing here? Well, the issue is that it's just, they're just kind of cut in. Divide. You're skipping, and I'm going to just blow this out, but what you're missing is this part. So what you have is this medium fill meat, because you got to remember the eyeball sitting in the eye socket. So you have this meat here that's filling, it's the movement muscles and stuff in the eyeball. And then your eyelid sits under that. So I think that's the only thing that could be really making it feel weird, is that it wasn't sitting in the eye. Right? And then right, you're missing that center meat or that filler meat. Right, because a profile eye should sort of look like brow, nose, oops, brow, nose, lips, chin. But then when you get in here, remember it sort of does this, and then that, and then your eyeball. So this meat, and then your brows there. So this meat here is what you were missing. Does that look better? Just me sitting around talking. Oh. I don't know. I can't. I never get a lot of followers. People like, I don't know. I think people find me abrasive. All right, I need to get out of here before we run over anyone else's time. Before we get over Oscar's time. But same time next week, same place. Anything else? Thank you everyone for coming and hanging out, and yeah, we will take this back up next week. All right, have a lovely rest of your week. There are, in the list below, there are like downloads for free versions of ZBrush. Use ZBrush, it's awesome. I always suck at the closing stuff. What else am I supposed to do? Watch other people on ZBrush live, because let's face it, tomorrow's Superstar Day. All day it's great talent. Yeah. Good night, kind and gentle folk. I will see you next week. All right. Have a great night, guys. And gals. And everybody else. And things and whatever. What am I doing here? Trying to figure out where OBS went. Oh, there it is. Boop. Okay. All right.